I want in this election. I don't think I'll say that you pay attention to make things from you. You'll be such a bloody problem. Africans in the street. We know anything's right. What is right? Georgia, tell us. You would say when I go do better, but we send you back Grenada. Going to put it right together. Is that a foundation? I want to say a pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And how are we doing this afternoon? I hope each and every one of you guys are doing well. It is another wonderful, wonderful day in Grenada, Carriacou, and PD Martinique. Today being Monday, the 10th day of November 2025. It is another class in session program. I want to welcome to the persons on Facebook, YouTube. How are you doing this evening? People move ahead, be straight to your face. You cannot jackass in a horse race. You say you ain't getting damn seat. Come on to mama guy. I'm gonna say, you don't feel the heat. Get to a force is high. That's what's we have no house. This is flowing over. You catch yellow fever. So they are in bulldozer, break down a shocking mover. It's plenty sexual. The attendants walk out with love, but we so. No matter what you tell them nowadays, no matter what you see, they are the best PM and they like him. It is another one, another class in session program. Tell somebody to tell somebody that Royalty James is here. You just done me by these head, top me head, till I dead. Only shot village. Yeah, yeah. If all the going is only communists. Take that away. Oh, it's the it's you and I, Junior. Yeah, chance, you see. we just want to remind or inform the general public. For those of you guys who are hearing it for the first time, then you're being informed. If you heard it before, then you're being reminded. On Sunday, the 16th day of November, Telescope. Did you hear me? Telescope, our public meeting will be held within that constituency. Who is the parliamentary representative? It is none other than the soon-to-be Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou and PD Martinique, none other than Honorable Emmeline Pierre, your constituency, her constituency, Telescope. We are coming. Yes, waiting for the opposition bill. And anytime we catch them only backpedaling, I ain't no bail. I ain't friendly big here is even voting from elsewhere. To fish the old water is chilling Venezuela. You want to be bribery and control the decision we know, but we ain't. So yes, listeners, a lot of them, they like it so. They like it so bad. So if they like it so, leave it so. As he did, say leave it there. But next time, next election, we're not leaving it there. So if they like it there, them go leave it there. We ain't leaving it there. If you guys are running over right now, and let me put out the disclaimer, Ollie. If you guys are running over very early, for those of you who are here for the first time to maybe see or hear me respond to anything, let me let you all know you guys would be fully disappointed because the script has changed. Yeah? We no longer hold that script of bantering and confusion. I think by now the masses are quite aware that I can have two sides of me. I can be the very noble, ethical, moral individual. And by now you guys know I can be a jabber. Yeah? So it ain't no shock to anybody if I decide to malivate, or whether or not I decide to be collective, calm, and responsible. And I've shared with you guys that I have since ceased and desist from this. Yeah, I think that we are losing the focus. We are losing the true conversation. We're losing the agree to disagree. We're losing the moral status and the respect that every Grenadian should have or must have for each other. You know, there are times when you decide, you know what, I will follow the crowd. And then on your path, on your way to following them, you realize that it doesn't make sense. Yeah? It doesn't make sense. Because at the end of the day, you get or gain nothing out of it than you create enmity or you create friction between yourself and others. Yeah? And so I saw one of the posts made today by our dear caretaker for St. Patrick's West, Brother Jelani Glean, and it really coincides with what I believe that the stance I've recently taken. And he says, let's change the conversation. I don't need no more enemies. I desire allies who are serious about leveling up. And together we can. And ladies and gentlemen,
I am employing to every supporter and supporters of the New National Party, this is our stage to change the script. I think the Grenadian people have weigh and balance. They have understood, they have listened, they have seen, and by now, I believe that there is a time that must come where it is more important to make a decision, or decisions are to be made. Plans are to be brought forward. Yes, as I stated very early on in the few months, that this is a time for comparing and contrasting. We're no more in the mood to create enemies. Yeah? We want our young people to listen now. Listen. Let us now vocalize what is in planning. They know what we have done. They know when we would have done it and to whom it was done to. History cannot be rewritten. Facts cannot be removed. And so at this stage, they want to know, are we willing to go back in there and bring forward a new national party that continues to chart the way forward through positive growth? This is what the people want to hear. Not who mother is that, and the father is that, and who is thief, and who is doctor. And they don't. No, we don't want to know that. We want to put everything on the plate. Let's separate who's vegetarians. Let's separate who's meat lovers. Let's separate. I just don't feel to have no meat today. This is the conversation that we want to have. And this is the conversation we will be listening to. So ladies and gentlemen, on Sunday, we continue this conversation. On Sunday at 5 p.m., Telescope St. Andrews. The conversation continues. Join us. Positive conversation. We have gone past the stage of Malivain. As I said earlier, I think by now, I think all my followers, I think all my followers know I could Malivate. But I think there's conversation that is of more importance. Now heading over to the south of the island, I want to remind you guys, or jot your guys' attention to the recent lull or low in one of the members who was very loud and vocal in recent days and weeks. How silent he has gotten. I don't know whether or not it is an attempt to make the Grenadian people feel he know they, so we can't talk about him. But this is not what is going to happen, my dear brother. You are going to be heard. We're going to vocalize that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think poor planning was placed into what we are seeing in many parts of Grenada in terms of its execution, in terms of what is happening, in terms of the society cry out, in many areas. Many, many areas. Because as of this stage, as I said, I believe that there has been a lack in management in a lot of areas. And so I just want to play this one here from our dear brother who shared his sentiment in recent days. Let me just ensure that I decline this. Let me just what has to be done properly. Yeah? My apologies on that. So that is the correct thing.
We see that there is some infrastructure work going on with the National Water Alliance to make sure that there's better infrastructure for the country. We all agree that is necessary. What we want to see is that the residents see that there's not due care and concern involved in their life, what the effect is on their livelihoods. There are a lot of people on this road who have restaurants, businesses that sell fish, crabs, bars, there's hotels, there's all types of businesses that are affected by the dust. The residents have small children who are affected by asthma, and they have to keep all their windows closed in the day and the night, making sure the house is extremely hot. They have to put on the air condition, and the cost of electricity is so high. Residents and all people in the south is complaining about the inconvenience, that it is taking them longer to commute, and also the damage it is doing to their vehicles. We all know these things are, I don't want to always just complain. But what we want to see from the minister and the representative from the south is that the communication necessary for businesses and residents to know what is the timeline for this inconvenience. And there is options. There can be contracts so that they can be coal mix poured in all the affected areas. It may be temporary, but this is necessary for the convenience of people and for the convenience of business operations. And this is why I wanted to bring awareness to this issue. It is an issue that is affecting the South in a great deal, and is one of the most high traffic areas in the country. Because of the high amount of traffic, the dust is constantly being going into the air, affecting all the residents in the hills and the ones near to the road.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there we had it. You understand deliberation? Unlike them who is always on the defense, I think we are educated enough to understand that we can share sentiments without hatred. And I think this is what the dear brother would have done there. All right? Now, in the true sense of the word, let us be honest. I believe that proper management, and as he said, proper arrangement could have been made for this level of inconvenience. And it is an acceptable project. We don't want to sound too bothered by or castigating in any way a project that is useful to every person within the area in whom it would be effective to. But come on. Persons are complaining. Motorists are complaining. I believe somehow or the other, there must be some way in which this can be dealt with in the proper manner. Alternative methods, whether it be one-way traffic, whether it be throwing some hot mix or maybe some sand or something, ladies and gentlemen, I believe can be done. Because when it rains, it's a muddy puddle. When it's hot, it is Dustville. And so, we can't say that both problems are to be alleviated, right? In the true sense of the word, in its entirety. We know that everything cannot be made perfect. But I believe in the attempt to fix one, the other might be curbed. Because if we decide to put in dust, at the end of the day, we'll have to deal with dust and remove the mud. And if we decide we're dealing with the mud, maybe we may not have to deal with the dust. But I believe, as I said, that proper planning, proper negotiations, yes, maybe if it means because it is understood that power testing must be done. It is further understood that in some areas, power testing has been done. Because we're talking about many areas, and we speak in motorists. There are mornings when it is hindering even the flow of traffic. You're stuck in traffic by the cemetery in Grandlands to the traffic light, in some cases for 15 or more minutes. We must understand that this is a situation where we are not asking, This is not a hatred, This is not saying, oh, I hate government, so I'm doing that, There are many persons echoing the sentiment, many persons on all fronts, all over, that are echoing the sentiment of government simply involving some form of way to curb such an issue. This is all. But there are persons that are underperforming and they're overposting on social media platform. But I'll get to that shortly. And so, one of the ministers that was very vocal and loud, always posting, he posting thing here, he posting thing there, realize how quiet he got. And if I share the sentiment of our dear brother Pierre, I think the gentleman can be labeled as a good individual. I just always say that, I think the individual can be labeled as a good individual, not bad. The brother is just on the wrong team. And you see, he's among persons that cannot steer him much better. Because if we had this individual among the experienced group of persons that we have today, and maybe when I talk about being around, I'm not saying sitting in the whole as a ministry, because I mean, even if he's on the NNP, you have to understand that this is one of the areas that have a lot of experienced persons. And so we can just bring you in and give you a post. Though this is not how we operate in the New National Party. We must vet you. You must be able to have a few attributes, and positive attributes that is. Hence the reason why we were quite aware that when you asked to meet the then Prime Minister and the opportunity was given, we thought through it. Yeah? We thought through it and we decided maybe you could be considered later on, but not no. You understand? No. But understand this, ladies and gentlemen. And going into the conversation of inexperience, and what inexperience does as individuals is give you not the opportunity to think thoroughly, make the right choices, make the right decisions. Even if all the corruption allegation goes around and around and around, we still have individuals who are just ignorant, not yet understanding the position in which you're feeling. I remember just a few months ago during the Jamaica's election, I brought it to in my program here as it relates to something that was done by two members of cabinet, two ministers of government, parliamentary representatives, and acting in the capacity of the people of Grenada. And I said that was wrong. At the time, I brought justification as to why it was wrong, how it was wrong. I said, you cannot step into another man's political conversation and attempt to ridicule a side, especially in government. You want to be as neutral as possible, because at the end of the day, you want to come across as a regional entity that may share support for a side, but you don't want to degrade the other side. And it happens. Many times over the war, through the Caribbean and over the world, you see other leaders going to other countries in order to give some form of help or assistance or aid or boost to one's election. You've seen it happen in Grenada. You've seen persons leave Grenada and go. But the main thing, especially in government, is to ensure that when you're sharing that support, you try to be as objective, you try to be as conscientious as it relates to the tentative fact that maybe you might be supporting this side and the other side wins. Now remember, you're in government. And so, whenever that country elects a party or administration, they become an entity of CARICOM which sees government leaderships and opposition. Yeah? So, if you go into a country, and at the time you go in that country, there's a campaign going on, and you're supporting government, whenever the election calls and the results are out, when the opposition or the government in waiting wins, it means that therefore you are now to deal with that government, not just party. And it is important that you keep all ties and respect every individual, especially when it is not within your country. And so when the brother shared the sentiment that they say the minister ignorant or arrogant, he really did not understand the sentiment he was echoing. Because one, to be ignorant is to not know. That's what it means to be ignorant, to be unaware or thereof. But to be arrogant simply means that you lack wisdom. You lack understanding. You lack the very easiest gist to go about life by respecting. So even if you hold a position, yes, and you decide because I hold that position, I should cost securities of the state, it shows arrogance. It shows arrogance. And arrogance mixed with ignorance, one alone can imagine. So imagine that you don't know, which makes you ignorant. And then you're hasty about something that you don't know. The only metaphoric thing there, or the only thing to compare you thereof, it has to be animalistic. As if you had a donkey toothbrush, you may not know that its use is to brush its teeth, because it is ignorant. But you hand that you give the donkey grass and it kick you. Mean that donkey arrogant? Eh? Donkey are rabies. But imagine putting both together. You no more have a donkey. You have a full-fledged jackass. Yeah, that's what it is. So when I spoke about it earlier on in the year, or just a few months back, and I said, ain't no problem in party supporting party on a regional basis, but you ought to be tentative about what you say, when you say. You need to understand you're going into somebody's country. You're going into somebody's country and you are basically I state, wanting to share support or liking or preference. You let persons know that on election day cast a ballot for the dear brother or sister. And that is all. Make a nice speech. You don't want to sound one-sided. You could maybe look into the country and speak on things that you see that would have happened in the country. Remember when the sister came from Jamaica and she spoke about the road condition and so on? Did you ever hear her belittle the, at the time, waiting government? She could have only spoke on who she come to support, and that is the government at the time, which was the New National Party. But what it is today, on a Caribbean basis, when you look at Jamaica's government and you look at Grenada's government, that is what CARICOM sees. And so, whether or not she supported the new National Party during the last general election, at this stage, when it comes to diplomacy, if there is anything that has to be happening, she must do so through government. And the government of the day is not the one she came to support during the last election, but she must respect government. And so recently we saw the video that was made public. And I'm not here instigating violence. Because let me say something. I'm Grenadian. If I'm in an area and the minister's life is being threatened, I am going to protect the public figure and the office in which he holds. Being honest. I tell you all, I don't walk around with hatred. But he must understand that when you're doing what you're doing, the probability exists that there are persons that is gruntled and they are going to attack you in a personal scope. And you need to understand. Let me advise you, my dear brother, knowing your proximity, your geographical proximity, if you do this again, I would advise that you write to your Minister of National Security and ask for a personal guard. And I'm going to prefer that you ask for officers of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Don't put yourself in such jeopardy. It is a lack of knowledge that have you in that position. This is not the first time. It happened in Jamaica. I spoke about it. And nothing wrong in a government, in a party or political party supporting another political party regionally. But you must do so on the basis of the political party, not the government of Grenada and the people of Grenada. I heard it said in Jamaica, and I blatantly said it must stop. And here again, just a few months thereafter, because I honestly believe that most of these people does not grasp the importance of public figure and public image. Which leads me to my next conversation. Deceased, individual deceased. An individual deceased. Now, maybe during this time, might have reached out to a particular parliamentary representative. However, on his Facebook page, and I'm not saying he posted, careful, uttered the gentleman's name in his comment, said he was the first youth we assisted in 2022 to pursue his studies in cuisine in the People's Republic of China. He expressed that the individual came to his office and he expressed his vision, and through the National Lotteries Authority, he was helped, and so may his soul rest in peace. Now again, intelligence would tell you that an individual's family looking at that is going to be disgruntled. Intelligence. If I walk to an individual that I might have donated $10,000 to, and they passed, and I go to the family and I say, you know, when he was going through that, he come by me for $10,000, boy. Oh. Or post that on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, it is morally incorrect. And as a public figure, especially in one where your task, your job description and specification speaks to your confidentiality, speak to the purpose of assisting people, speak to the issue of sometimes consulting, asking. And so with that post, a family member or maybe family members took it to Facebook and they were very upset. Even one of the statements saying he never went to China. I don't know why they lying and his family was capable of sending him anywhere. Now, if government assists an individual, and we have to understand, there are some things that are photogenic. There are some things that deserves a photo. Because public relation in today's world is okay. Social media is okay. It's tentative. And so sometimes you need to just ask a person, can I post this? Should I post this? So when we have cabinet members being disrespected, because the person's got very obscene, some of them in their comments. And then it was asked that same be removed. Because the family would have shared the sentiment that they does not want any one of this to be posted. And they would have asked for it to be removed. Up until the time the comments came in and all the other things came in, would you believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the post was not removed? Up until the time when family members posted and they said whatever it is, that the individual blatantly did not remove the post. Now, if you go on the page, you would see it removed. But I'm saying on the request of the officers, or the family members, not the officers. On the request of the family members, it was not removed. And when you see things like that, when you hear things like that from public figures, it only goes to show their levels of respect for people. It only goes to show that they are willing to do what they feel like. Let me please myself, when I'm ready, I go take it up. But time is coming. Time draws nigh. Now, before I jump into my next conversation on some issues, I want to play a clip, and this one's coming out from our dear sister Jenny's Facebook page. There is a few memes at the end, so I want you guys to first listen the conversation. And this is going into a few of the things that I was mentioning last week as it relates to the Prime Minister and asking persons to go into the manifesto. But let me play the clip first.
It's a set of comedians we have running this country. Big time kukute.
Part of the challenges we faced at Marketing Board was the absence of records. So no financial statements were done for a number of years leading into when we got into office. And the problem with financial statements, if you do for 1 year and have those statements audited, it's very difficult to go on and do this the next year.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't stop saying how much this gentleman amazed me. Yeah? I cannot go on. More to say. You came into government. There was bad records. And so, auditing or whatever, however you place it, was bad. In September, and I am subjected to correction, of 2022, Marketing Board was of no more. Promise or promises were made as it relates to one, finding a private partner to aid in the reopening. Secondly, the conversation of budget deliberations stated that they were going to start getting 40-foot containers for farmers throughout the length and breadth of Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique to help store their items overnight and so on and so forth. Now, both of the initiatives that was mentioned by this administration, heading into its 4th year, is yet to be seen. And we're speaking marketing board. While the world in itself focuses on a main thing, food security. Go into any country, go anywhere, and see if one of the main conversation is not food security. While we speak of that, and the Prime Minister gives all the excuses, and with the level of rainfall that we have been seeing recently, it means that there was going to be a height in productivity from our farmers. My question, where is the marketing board? Where is the 40-foot containers? Where are they? How can it aid in terms of being or making better for farmers, or being better within our food security system in Grenada? No wonder why the school feeding program and children are coming home and complaining that it's rice and it's rice and it's rice. Because, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at what this administration is focused on in terms of developing our agriculture, it simply calls for a shake of the head. And while they focus on things that are not important, while they focus on all the things that they try to make Grenadians believe that is being done, is laughable. A Prime Minister is presently arms in arms with an individual in Nigeria or within the African continent that is a businessman, not affiliated in no way in his country or government or within government. It is a privately owned entity. And he is giving cricket gears to your country. And while you gallivant with them, and you know, in the back of my mind, I am wondering. There's one person said to me, I wonder if that man don't go in and do his own personal work in his own personal capacity, and he's been paid or gifted for it. Because I believe by now every government seeks to, I help you, you help me. And maybe if a government is dealing with a country, and how many times have you seen it in this world, that a government assists a country with sporting gears of that amount? I will give you sporting gears. But when you have the conversation with the people that are running the country, they're saying to you, you know what we really want? We want you to assist our nurses. see your best they could get a walk in your country. And then you say, yeah, there's no problem. That's okay. But Haitians came on our shows and they were affecting our country's purse. Leave that for you to start thinking. But ladies and gentlemen, while our Prime Minister looks at a private entity owner to get a little handout and other little favors, because by now we can project that, as he said, let us think about the people who are giving during the campaign the big monies. See, them fellas just stuck and they don't think. Because as Dr. Mitchell said, stay outside there and setting, man. Setting. To come into a training school. We didn't give them the opportunity. So while all this is happening, my attention is brought to a notification that reads, Port workers give the PM 10 days to remove 4-thumb chairman. So the United Workers of Grenada Port Authority have issued a non-negotiable 10-day ultimatum to the Prime Minister, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, demanding the immediate resignation or removal of the anti-worker chairman, Ronnie Antwine. The workers are also demanding that all contractual obligations owed to the employees be fulfilled immediately, including unpaid benefits, vacation leave, and other entitlements long delayed since 2005. The statement leaves no room for delay. Failure to act will trigger full industrial action to defend the workers' rights, dignity, and livelihood. Their patience has been exhausted. United they stand. Their demand will be met, or their demands will be met. The workers declared, warning that anti-working practices by the chairman will not be tolerated, and justice, fairness, and respect for human dignity cannot and will not be postponed any longer. Yes, a decisive escalation. The workers have placed all Grenadian breweries' cargo on red alert. Will the Prime Minister act against a powerful, long-serving figure or protect them? Have you heard this anyway prior to now? Has government addressed this in any way, fashion, or form? Are the persons at the port doing their work? Have they done their job, or has they done their job? But no. Everybody talking about the parliamentary $10,000. Now, you know what makes all this a joke? The mere fact that the only defense that our government can bring forward to our Grenadian people in order to castigate or malign an opposition is to make it seem as if what they're saying is undignified or immoral, when the fact of the matter is, when we look at the parliamentary system, the question must be asked, who is really in charge? The conversation of ministerial deliberations were raised in the House of Parliament. Items that was dealt with in the sitting prior, in which the Prime Minister was in, and he can't remember that. On asking or inquiring as to those motions, the Speaker of the House acknowledged that they were addressed. And to not push you any further, let me play what I'm talking about.
Honorable Prime Minister.
So, Mr. Speaker, if I may, on a point of procedure, I'm a bit surprised that we are at number 15. I think there were questions, ministerial statements, none of this were covered at the last sitting. So items 12, the items before bills, Mr. Speaker, were not covered. Questions, ministerial statements, none of these items. Questions, urgent questions, statements by ministers, none of those matters were addressed on the last sitting.
Honorable Prime Minister, yes, but they were called. They were called as items. They were not called?
So, well, Mr. Speaker, I do not recall them being called, and in fact, that's why I raised the issue of what was happening on the last occasion. Because I certainly knew that we had ministerial statements that we intended to make, and we were not given an opportunity to do so.
Now, listeners, understand what is happening here. Now, those items, as acknowledged by the Speaker, they were called. So this is where we say in the House of Parliament, we move on to item 14. What is item 14? Minister's question, queries, or deliberations. So those were called in the last sitting. In the last sitting, the House did call. As you hear the Speaker said, it was mentioned, it was called.
I mean, if the minutes are available from the last sitting, then obviously we could clarify that.
Clip is still playing.
Honorable Prime Minister, please.
So at that stage, the Speaker of the House has called the Prime Minister to either chambers or to his desk.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to propose an amendment to the order paper so that items 10, 11, 12 could be added to the order paper. Item 10 will be questions, item 11 urgent questions under the provision of the standing order, item 12 statements by ministers.
Now, listeners, understand this. He stands on an amendment. All right? So, he has acknowledged, even himself, realizing that they have gone past items 10, 11, and 12. Because the mere fact the Speaker called him, yeah? Speaker called him, and the Speaker might have said to him, well, this is the minutes, and look at when this was called. For those of us who was watching the deliberations. So, the Speaker acknowledging that those items were called. What are you amending? What are you amending? You are not amending, you are recalling. Amendment means to make a change thereof. So if I'm amending something, it means that I am either including or excluding. All right? Now, what has been recalled already? Because if you say you're amending a piece of legislation, it means that you're putting something in it or you're removing it. So what is the amendment? You're bringing forward numbers 10, 11, and 12. That's what you're doing. You're bringing them forward because they were dealt with, as acknowledged by the Speaker, and the more so further by the minutes in which you asked for clarification for.
10, 11, 12. Honorable Prime Minister, I want to see if I get the numbers right. 10, 11, and 12?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. So item 10 will be questions. Item 11 will be urgent questions on the provision of standing order number 21. And items 12, statements by ministers.
All right.
So the Speaker say, all right. So the Speaker now agreeing or have agreed of the amendment or the so-called amendment. But why? And hence the reason why in the previous sitting there was no issues. Because the only thing the opposition stated, the documents that they were not privy to must not be discussed in the House. That was the opposition stance in the previous sitting. That what was discussed here, or what had to be discussed here, must be things that we would have had in hand prior to the day before. So they were willing to go through every other thing. The minister's deliberation, the minister's question, because the item was called. However, because they raised the issue, yes, of those that they are not going to speak on, that was given to them the day before, the ministers and government decided that they were not going to deliberate at all. So all you understand how the thing go now? So when the opposition got the documents, some of the documents stated, or some of the things stated on documents, were things that the opposition did not or wasn't privy to prior or to the time span given, which was the 7 days. Right? And so they were willing to deal with all other things that were given between the projected time. So things like the bills, minister's deliberation, minister's question, the committee, all those things. The opposition was ready for that. All they were saying, things that are itemized here that we did not have privy to within the stipulated period, we are not going to discuss. However, within the arrogance and using the parliament as the puppet show, they decide that they are not going to deliberate on it. And so those items, 10, 11, and 12 was called. In the previous sitting, they decided not to deliberate on it. And as acknowledged by the Speaker, when the Prime Minister stood, he said the Prime Minister, yes, it was mentioned. Playing it again so you guys go here.
Honorable Prime Minister.
So, Mr. Speaker, if I may, on a point of procedure, I'm a bit surprised that we are at number 15. I think there were questions, ministerial statements, none of this were covered at the last sitting. So items 12, the items before bills, Mr. Speaker, were not covered. Questions, ministerial statements, none of these items. Questions, urgent questions, statements by ministers, none of those matters were addressed at the last sitting.
Honorable Prime Minister, yes, but they were called.
They were called. Whether or not they deliberated is no fault of the House. But they were called as acknowledged by the Speaker. But yet still he accepted amendment. This is the parliament that they expect opposition members to go and sit in when there is no fairness, when procedures are being breached, when respect is not being given, and when the house is just simply a mess. It was called. Speaker acknowledged, minutes presented, because I'm certain that is why he went to the clocks, to show that the item was raised. So what are you allowing the amendment about? Why are you allowing the amendment? The opposition had no issues with 10, 11, and 12 in the previous sitting. You guys decided you were not going to speak on it. And they blame the parliament. They blame the parliament. But ladies and gentlemen, just like marketing board, we asked questions of the Stony Goat or the Stony Goat project, where there was an allocation of fundings read in our country's debate, budget debate. We asked questions of the Constantine Bridge, where allocated fundings and other arrangements, and even the commencement of the said bridge. We asked of the Silver River project, in which at least 65% or more of this job was done. And also the 500 style Grenadian homes, as we head into 4 years this administration governance. Ladies and gentlemen, time to change the script. They asked me to do it the last time, and I'm going to do it because I think there is peace in educated people. I ask of the persons from the New National Party who might be holding Facebook fake pages, that even if you are, let's start sharing the purpose of the New National Party as we head into our next general election. If it means that your identity is being kept secret because of where you work or what you do, I don't believe that those pages or the page must be used for defamation, character assassination, or disrespect. Let us propel forward in saying and doing what we have to do to win the next general election. So to my NNP people, I'm certain that I'm speaking on the behalf of the entire rank and file of the New National Party when we ask that we leave the bantering for the other side. Let them do their castigation. Let us show that we have been tested and proven time and time again as a political organization. Let us change the script as we end 2025, 2026, projected to be a probable year for election. 2027, the constituted year for an election. Let us change the script. Leave them in the wilderness of willow and hatred. Let us show a bigger us. Let us change the conversation. We do not need enemies. We desire allies who are serious about leveling up Grenada. Because together we can. The words of the caretaker for St. Patrick's West, Brother Jelani Glynn. We desire allies who are serious about leveling up. Let us level up. Been speaking to you guys and I get about 3 messages. Oh, somebody post you. Somebody post you. Nobody posted me, ladies and gentlemen. I was never employed with a service in the world that wore any clothing, or security service that wear any clothing of such sort. Level up. As I tell you guys the story, my 15-year-old said to his mother, tell daddy that he hates to see him bantering on Facebook. And ladies and gentlemen, from that date to now, those of you guys who have been following me over the years, realize how much I trickled down. I live a life first and foremost as a role model to my children. I am not perfect. None of us are. You cannot change the past, but make better for the future. I am proud to say I am a responsible father. My significant other can attest to my hard work. Wake in the morning, go to a job, do what I have to do. No man is an island, and if I can, and I have to, I would reach out to people that I believe are deemed that they can assist. But you know what? I am not at home sitting down or on the block chilling and asking. This country is so tough that $100 feels like $2.50. But that is what it is, because if you pay boss with it, by the time you turn twice, it's over. Let us change the script. Let's level up. So, I am not scared in any way. You know, I am built forward tough. I always say that. And every time you bring negative as of late, I'm going to bring positive. NNP supporters. There is no need for the character assassination. There is no need for the hatred. There is legislation put in place for defamation, insult, and all other offenses against the state. NNP people, behind the fake pages, leave it alone. Deal with the issues of the state, and let us do so with facts that we can grab our young people who are today bewildered. They posted this morning, I wonder if we have a youth ministry. And when I posted it, somebody tell me who is the minister. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of another day of broadcasting. I want to invite you guys to be here again tomorrow. We are going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week because we do not have any meeting on Wednesday, and I would not have to protect the voice. Yeah? So you have me to your disposal for the entire week. Just want to remind the general public that this Sunday, gear up. We're going to Sister Emma's constituency, and it is a public meeting, not a rally. Behave. Behave on yourself. But if you want to show love and support to a political leader within her constituency, I say, let us gather the forces. Let us gather the forces. And let we go to Telescope in a public meeting, not a rally. It's not a rally. Let's go to a public meeting and join us as we continue to give you guys substantiable information as it relates to what is taking place in the state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Martinique. Again, I want to say good evening to each and every one of you guys, to the friends and folks out there in the diaspora. Good day to you guys. God's blessing to each and every one of you guys that continue to support and show love. Yeah? Tell them I doesn't beg all you. Alright? So do have yourself a blessed one. And God love each and every one of you guys. And I love each and every one of you guys. God's blessings.
Fish I will finish the action. I don't understand. Cause it's that attention to many problems face from this issue. But you be it's such a bloody problem. Agriculture industry. We know. What is right? John, so it's you could say, oh, do better. But we send you back in the dark in a crowd. We going to put it right together. We it's an abomination. It's on the roof. You know what we live. All you need is a kayak brigade. To be the movement people move ahead. Be a friend, take you straight to your face. You get a jackass in a horse race. So you say, oh, you ain't getting it damn sleep. Come on to mama guy. I'm gonna say, oh, you want to feel me. Get to a point this high. That's so simple. We have no house, so small. General. This